Okay, we're going to do something a little bit different this time. We're not going to talk about the problems this movie has, so much as the problem this movie is. So, how can Batman Bad Blood be such an issue in and of itself? Well, I refer you to the marketing.
We should work together as a family.
From here on, it's only family.
Did you spot it? The problem was the attempt to make this a Bat Family movie. Now, some may expect me to go on a fanboy-style rant about how Batman should be a stoic loner and never form relationships and do everything alone, and the Bat Family just drags him down and makes him less interesting. Hell no. I bloody love the Bat Family. I didn't start liking Batman until well into my 20s, and like many of the uninitiated, I thought he was just a brooding, manly, stoic loner who did nothing but beat up criminals and bemoan the loss of his former loved ones, like every ultra badass snooze fest hero. Then I started to delve further into the lore and the history and discovered all these amazing characters, and I started to change my mind pretty quickly. For me, Batman has never been interesting in and of himself. Not uninteresting or bad, just, stoic, broody hero, in my head anyway. But for me, Batman is at his most interesting in relation to others. That is when his psychology, his damage, his heart, his flaws, and his strengths all come out. And that is true in relation to both his allies and his villains. That is also why this Batman has been a bit of a disappointment. So, hearing me go on and on about how much I love the Bat Family, you might be thinking, well, shouldn't this be your dream movie? Well, no, because these two came before it. You think you can give us a fully functioning Bat Family in 70 minutes? The first Batman movie spent all its time faffing around doing nothing but telling us what a precious, perfect little messiah Damian is, and vaguely setting up his relationship with his father. The second movie was tasked with exploring that relationship, leaving it open-ended, I might add. Now, after 150 minutes of wasted time, you are going to set up 3 extra characters, explore Dick's decade-long relationship with Bruce as well as his unease with being tasked with Bruce's legacy and being stuck in his shadow, when you pretty much spent the last 2 movies ignoring his character, build a relationship with Damian and introduce the Heretic in 70 minutes. After wasting our time, now you are going to give us all of that. Have at it. Oh, DC logo trying to trick us into thinking this movie will actually focus on Nightwing. We start on a torture session, so nothing seems to be amiss in Gotham, before
Batman doesn't use guns.
Woman comes to put a stop to it, but we all know how territorial Bruce is, so he jumps in to give her a piece of his mind. We get a well done and mysterious introduction to our new villain.
Do I know you?
Intimately, and not at all.
Then Batwoman, hot-headed newbie that she is, screws things up and...
Rest well, Batman.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they're going to follow through with making this a Bruce-free movie. Best sarcastic voice ever. We then get some dick shots before he is once again, insert pun here. This, and Alfred stalling Wayne Enterprises, is really the only indication we get of any fallout from Batman's death. I know I keep saying this, and I know you're probably all sick of hearing it, but in the comics, Dick taking up the cowl was a culmination of years and years, no, decades of character growth on his part. From him being Robin, growing up as Robin, becoming less and less comfortable with Bruce's control, either being fired or quitting depending on the iteration you're looking at, forming the Teen Titans, being its leader, taking on the identity of Nightwing, establishing himself as that hero, establishing himself in Bloodhaven, and then Bruce's death hits. And Dick does not take up the cowl right away. Every fibre of his being is trying to avoid it. But we are very carefully shown the fallout of Batman's death, the criminal activity, and the reaction to Gotham having no protector. Gotham needs a Batman. Tim can't do it, Damian is too young, and Jason is
a bit murdery.
And even after he takes up the cowl, we see him grow with it. and develop as his own Batman and do it in his own way. And taking on the responsibility of being Batman to someone else. I've mentioned that relationship before, so I won't go too deeply into it here, but not only are you trying to introduce a Bat family, but you are trying to create a storyline that encapsulates decades worth of comics, and in comic book time, over a decade worth of history and familial relationships. Instead of all that careful setup, we get this line.
Even when you've disappeared, I can't get away from you.
And later a complaint to Damien hand-waving away everything I just said. You see why this should have been more than one movie? So we are then introduced to Luke and Lucius and Kate and her dad, and these interactions are actually pretty good. You know what the New 52 movies do pretty well? Dads! We've got Victor and his dad, we've got Luke and Lucius, we've got Kate and his dad, and for a brief moment, even Bruce and Damien. This scene is very, very good. It very naturally establishes that Kate likes ladies. She has a close relationship with her dad. They both care about and worry about each other, and something traumatic happened in their past that has left them feeling raw and has in some way pushed Kate to do what she's doing right now. That is really very, very good. In fact, the only fatherly relationship here that isn't done well, and needed to be done well for this movie to work at all, is Bruce and Dick. Without that, we have no concept of why this is such a big deal for Dick. On the bright side, the New 52 action is still pretty decent, and Dick and Damien, despite their relationship being unexplored like everything else, actually have some decent lines that are really reminiscent of their dynamic.
What? There's no way you're gonna pull this off without my help.
Modest as ever, I see.
I don't trust her.
Oh, but you did trust Talon.
Shut up.
So I guess someone in the writing room actually did check out the comics, which just strengthens my point that they hamstrung themselves by wasting their time with the first two movies and then trying to cram decades worth of Bat family history into 70 minutes. The dynamic duo have a conversation with Batman and she pulls the whole "I work alone" shtick. Dick and Damien have a conversation about Batman and what him being gone means until we are interrupted by what this movie is often interrupted by, Batwoman exposition. A solid 1 minute and 20 seconds of it. The heretic storms Wayne Enterprises, steals tech and injures Lucius, which prompts Luke to want to help in the fight. Meanwhile, we are shown how little DC believes that Nightwing can hold a movie, as we are not even close to halfway through, and it's already revealed that Bruce is alive. And if we thought Talia was bad and son of Batman, which she was, they have decided to throw out any nuance they did have and make her full-on Disney villainous.
Before he lost his precious parents.
Precious parents. One thing, though, that is actually pretty gratifying is that Damien seems to be both acting like
I don't have a concussion.
and being treated like a child.
Master Dick was quite explicit.
He's not my father. Neither are you.
And for that, young man, you should be profoundly grateful.
Turn down for what?
Dick forms an alliance with Kate after she ditches a date with Renee Montoya, and we get the only exploration of Bruce and Dick's relationship in this whole franchise.
What was it like, growing up with him?
What was it like? Lonely.
Lonely, that's all we're getting. I don't know why I expected anything else. Especially since we are instead treated to more Kate Kane backstory, which wasn't needed. Everything that is said here, except for the fact that Batman directly inspired her, was already established pretty great in the diner scene with her dad. Meanwhile, Damien is kidnapped by the heretic, and we get another glimpse of how interesting this movie could have been.
My entire life has been suffering! I want to know you, love you as he does.
And then I'll get to that in my conclusion. Kate and Dick are on their way to rescue Damien.
a respected religious order with missions across the world.
Engage in a little social commentary.
Perfect front for criminal scumbags.
And I gotta say, the kid's voice acting is still no Kevin Conroy, but at least I feel some real emotion from him this time. And since there isn't really anything of value here, I am just going to rattle through this to get to my conclusion. The gang, along with Luke, break out Bruce and Damien. Bruce is a total unwarranted arsehole to Dick. And you can make the argument that he's under Talia's mind control, but it's a real failing of these Batman films that I honestly can't tell the difference. Talia's plan is to mind control all world leaders. They break Bruce's mind control, Talia is defeated and has a massive temper tantrum about Bruce not loving her, and then...
I will never have you in this life, but perhaps in death.
Just kidding, physics mean nothing. Onyx kills her. Who is Onyx? No fucking idea! The only time I have ever seen this character outside of Bad Blood was in the Under the Hood comic. And despite being my favourite standalone comic of all time, I didn't even care about her then. This movie did nothing to change that. We have Bat Family assemble, and that is the blessed end to this trilogy. Oh, conclusion, where do I even start? Well, let's start with the good since it's a very short list. I have said this before and I will say it again. Dick sucks. They really seem to have no faith in this character, put in no effort to make him a considerable threat to anyone, and skip over all the really interesting parts of his character, but his personality here is done really well. Just the way he carries on conversations while he's fighting.
What's all that noise?
Construction.
The way he jokes around, his happy-go-lucky personality, his love for puns.
That would make them ninjas.
Yeah, like I said, it is obvious these writers do know these characters, it's just they've not used them all that well. Damien is sufficiently more palatable here. I don't know if that's because there's less of him, but the voice acting has improved, and he actually seems to be acting his age and not being held up as the new 52 Messiah. So, that is nice. The dynamic between Dick and Damien, though barely present, when it is present is actually pretty good. The Kate Kane stuff is good on its own, and if this was part of a Batwoman movie, despite not caring all that much about the character, I do feel like I would like to see it. No, I haven't seen Batwoman, nor do I want to. Okay, bad. Everything else. The mere existence of this movie was a mistake. They should have either put the focus on the Bat family from the beginning, or made this the conclusion to Bruce and Damien's relationship drama using the heretic. Talia has just gone off the fucking chain.
Start with the bastard. We can always make more.
Batman's characterization is even worse here than it was in previous movies, which could be connected to mind control, but once again, I can't tell. And the thing that is really starting to annoy me with these New 52 films is another unearned emotional resolution.
You brought us all together because you understood our pain, our loneliness better than anyone could. We needed family. We needed you.
No, he didn't. Other than adopting Dick and not even taking in Damien, having Damien thrust upon him, Bruce didn't bring any of these people together. And this is our big emotional climax? A setup that wasn't resolved, and a resolution that wasn't set up. My conclusion when it comes to this movie is that the writers actually know and care about the characters, but previous decisions, whether they be creative or studio made, just didn't allow them to tell the story they wanted. But they are still at fault for trying to make this a Bat family movie in as little time as they had. Yes, team-up movies with a large cast of characters has worked in the past, but this is not like Justice League War. This is not a bunch of strangers just meeting each other. This is the Bat family. And the word family implies a level of history that you just can't get in this short amount of time. There was no way this movie could have been successful They should have just continued with Bruce and Damien's relationship. It would have been a less enjoyable concept than a Bat Family movie. But there are interesting things you could do with the Heretic. An aged clone of Damien created by his mother to serve her. Bruce has been violated by Talia, and now Damien has been violated by Talia.
They used your DNA and put it through a process of accelerated growth.
Someone that both father and son loved and trusted just took that trust and stomped all over it. And not only that, she created this living, feeling human being, because that's not really what he was in the comics. But I am really open to seeing more of this kind of writing surrounding this basically mindless monster. This could have been a movie that served to make Damien an actually sympathetic character. As this trilogy stands, we have a couple of decent ideas, one good emotional setup, and no emotional resolutions that feel appropriate and earned. We have taken a cast of likeable and sympathetic characters and made them weak, unlikable, or so out of place that they make a bad impression regardless of how good their stories are. So I am very glad to see the back of this trilogy, but I won't be seeing the back of these characters because they will be appearing in Justice League vs. Teen Titans. I can't wait! Honestly, everyone, I have fond memories of these New 52 movies, but looking at them again, I just can't for the life of me remember why. Down in the comments, please, tell me when it gets good.